So hello everyone, I welcome you all to the day 2 editorial of our mobile development challenge. In this challenge, we have to create a user sign up form with necessary fields including a calendar widget for selecting the date of birth and a drop down menu for choosing your gender. Okay, so let's get right on to the task. In our previous day, we made the sample app where we created a splash screen and a home page. Let's start from that project only. Sorry, wait a second. Yes. So this was our project from the last day. Uh, we created a splash page. We created a home page. Let's run this. So here we have to create a sign up page. So in the meanwhile, it's loading up. Let's create a sign up page for that. Sign up page for that. Okay. Let's create a stateless widget here. After it is done analyzing, we will get our IntelliSense or suggestions. Generally takes. So yeah, our project has started, and let's create this stateless widget in the meantime also. We'll name it sign up page. Okay. Yeah. So this was our project which we created on day 1. It had a splash screen and a home screen. So without changing much to the structure, let's create a sign up page here only. But let's not disturb the home page. Let's keep it as it is, because generally when we create an app, home page and sign up page are two different things. But let's copy this theme of the home page. So let's go to home page. Copy this. Come to your sign up page. And also let's pop this up and give it a good layout. Yeah, perfect. So now that things are clear, let's run this. First, every time we try saving, it will refresh itself. So we don't want that. Generally, this problem is solved when we are using emulator, because there's like the fast reload feature, and it does not restart every time we save. But here it is. So one bypass of that is like here we are redirecting it to our splash screen. We can just redirect it to our sign up page for testing purposes. Okay. So yeah. Now it will show the sign up page, but we want it to say sign up here. Okay. And here, instead of welcome to NIT Agatala, we'll say fill the form. Please fill your details. Please fill your details. Yes. So now let's also lower down the size a bit. Let's give it a 17 font size. Okay. Now we want a text field here, so we can enter our data here. So we are already in a column. Any number of widgets we place inside it, they are going to be stacked on below each other. Let's create a text field. Super quick. Text field by default, when we click and save, you see there we will get a text field like this. But who wants a text field like this, right? We need to give it a proper decoration so that it looks decent at least. So let's get right on that. To give it a decoration, we need a decoration property, and decoration property takes input decoration type of object. So we'll give it an input decoration. And input decoration, first we want to give it a border. Okay, so let's give it a border, and outline input border. For now, let's do this. Yeah, border is visible, but it's like too much closer to the screen because there's no padding between them. So let's provide it a padding of 20. Okay, yeah. Also, I want this color to be a little bit different from the background so that user can understand what they are typing here. So in text field, you will see there is a property called If you look closely, you will find a property called color. Let's no, not like that. I guess in the decoration itself there will be a property of color. Fill color. Yeah, this color. This is filled inside the text field. So we'll give it a colors dot white. Let's see if it's filled or not. No, it's not filled. Okay, we need to check off another property here. It's called whether this text field should be filled or not. It's a type of boolean. If we set it to true, our text box will be filled. But this is like too much striking our eyes, right? So we'll give it an opacity, and we can give opacity like this, and we can give it a opacity of 0.5 so that it looks a little bit decent. It will give us a like that opaque kind of theme. Yeah, like this. So it will look a little bit decent. Now our text field is ready, but to dictate is what kind of text field it is, we need a label here, right? Generally, whenever you type in some text, you will see a label here. So let's provide a label here also. A simple text element, like this only. Let's copy this one only. Okay, but here it will say, let's first property we are saving its a name. Okay, here by default, whenever the things are in column, they will you can see that the alignment of the column, cross axis alignment, is center. Now what is the cross axis? Let me explain you that. See, by default the columns are placed like this, right? So this is the main axis of column in which the direction of elements are placed, and this is the cross axis, the axis that is perpendicular to the main axis. So this is the cross axis. So by default the elements in the cross axis are set to be centered. You can see here, set to be cross axis alignment set to be centered. But it's good also, like we wanted the fill your details from here, but we want this name to here. So what should we do? There are multiple ways to do that, but the one of the most popular ways is using a widget called align. So if you wrap it with a widget and you type here align, we see this align widget, and when you write here alignment, what kind of alignment you want to give it, you can give it alignment dot center left, and that would push this name thing here. But the problem is now there's a bit too much padding here. Why there is too much padding? Because you can see that we have provided this text also 20 of padding from all sides, and this text input also 20 padding from all sides. We don't want that. We want 20 padding here, but we don't want this 20 padding here in the vertical section. So there's also, we can change the padding selectively. We can give this a padding of as insert dot all dot symmetric. Now symmetric let you choose two properties. It has the vertical and horizontal. So we can give it a vertical padding of 2.5 and horizontal padding of 20. Okay. Let's go put it const. Yeah. So now we can copy this padding and we can put this same here. Okay. Now see this name and it looks cleaner, little bit cleaner. We need to give it a hint text also, because we want the users to know what kind of text they have to type. Let's give it a type like, let's give it my name. Okay, so like this is a hint text. This hint text also should be like opaque, right? Otherwise it would look like a real text. We don't want that. There's also hint text style option, I guess. Yeah, hint style. It will take in an input of type text style, and we can give here the same color that we gave it here, colors.white dot with opacity 0.5. So now you can see, but this white looks like a little bit bad. So what if we give it a black? Yeah, I think this looks a little decent. No, not here black. Here it should be white. Here I think we should give it black. Fill, no. Yeah, black is fine, I guess. Why is it not showing. I guess it's pretty much the black opacity. It's not visible because it's small. We can lower down the opacity a bit, and I think, yeah, this is fine now. This is very much lighter, so it looks good. Let's do this. So our text field is ready. Everything is ready, and by default text field has this on tap property which lets you set your values. So here also that property must be there on changed, and you can just do this here. Here you can print the value and everything would be fine. So now if you look at the designs given in the link, this is the day 3 task. We will need a name, an email ID and password. So let's give them first. Now we want, for email ID and password, we want a type of text field like this only, but we want password written here and some different hint text written here, right? And it does not make sense to like copy this whole code time and time again. So what we'll do is we will just make this portion reusable. We'll make it a different widget, our own custom widget, so we can reuse them any number of times. So how do we do that? So first of all, we agree that these two are in a column, so the separate widget would also should be in column, right? So first let's put this much part in a separate column, in a nested column of its own. Type control dot, this window will appear, wrap with column. Now this is the column. So now after this is it's wrapped in a column, you can extract this widget. Type this bulb or type control plus dot, and you can see extract widget option. Click on here, write your name here, custom text field, right? You can see, now you can see that this text field has been extracted, and it looks much better readable, and this page is much smaller. And let me give you another rule, that whenever you create a custom widget, don't put here. It impacts the readability very much, and it hinders it actually. So let's put it in a different folder. Let's create a folder which will house all our custom widgets. Custom widgets, right? And let's create a file here called custom text field dot. We'll get to that, what we'll put here. I will put here this here basically, but let me show you why I did that. For example, I wanted another text field called for password. I will write it here, another text field for email, right? So now I just need to write these 3 lines, and it's looking better. It's better for readability and debugging purposes, and we have these 3 text fields here. One thing I would also like to give it a little bit of border, I guess. This is way too small and big. Let's adjust the styling a bit. So now I think this text field is a bit bigger. So let's give it a size. Let's give this text field a size. So what do we do for giving size? We wrap it with a size box. So let's give it a size box of height 50, I guess. So I guess now this is a good size, and we can give it a border radius too. Border radius should be in the border property. So yeah, border radius and border radius dot all, and we can give it a radius of 10. Why no? I want to give it a circular radius. Border radius dot circular, and that should be it. You see, I made one changes and all these 3 text fields are changed. If I had pasted it one by one, I would have to make these changes in every widget code. So that's the problem. That's the benefit of using, abstraction and, making your code reusable and better. So now our text field is looking good enough. But now since we want here written password and here written email and here password, we need to somehow control this property from the parent itself, right? And we can do that. We can just create a member variable here, final string hint text also, let's say, and final string email, no, label sorry, label. And since we have created a member variable, we need to initialize the member variable in the constructor. So we can just write here also required this dot hint text. That means you need to provide this value, otherwise it won't be initialized and it can't be used. That's why we need to set it as required. If I made this nullable, you can see if I don't put required, it won't matter. I can just put it this dot label, and if I give it a label, it will show the label, otherwise it won't show the label. But I definitely want the label every time I need to use this widget, so I will just put required here. I could have also done that by just going here, quick fix, and add final fields, and it would work the same way. Now since we are requiring these two properties, hint text and label, we need to provide them here because that's what we wanted to control these properties from the parent itself. So let's say the label is Aman and the hint text here is, oh sorry, label is my name and hint is Aman. Okay, same thing here also. Let's copy paste it where we don't have to write this too many times. This will be our email, example@gmail.com. This will be your password. This will be your star. So you can see right now it's not showing here. Of course it won't show here because we haven't used these properties here, so we need to use this here. We need to use label here. Okay, this const cannot be const because now this property is changing, so our widget cannot be const when a property is changing. That's why it gives this errors. So whenever you see this error, don't be afraid. See this error, invalid const value, just remove this const and it will go away. Now I need also use the hint text. Give it a hint text as hint text. So yeah, now see all our hint text and password and email is everything is available now. So we have definitely created a text field. Now I told you that writing this here is like impacts readability. For example, once you have like very big project, how will you know that in this below sign up you have created this? Of course you can come here and come here, but for example you start creating different widgets down, it will be very much hindering for you to scroll up and scroll down every time. So we don't do that. We can just keep this widget in a separate file here. Now you just need to import this material and everything will be fine and it would work. Of course here you need to import it since you have moved the file, so we can import that using the intelligence of the VS Code. That's the beauty of having a type-safe language. So now everything works fine. So now we have to create a calendar type of widget which would let us pick the date of birth. We cannot do that with the text field because we want to do is we want to click here, we want to select a date, and then the date would appear here. So it does not make sense to be using a text field here. We can also do that we can type a date also, we can pick a date also, but that would increase the complexity a bit and that's beyond the scope of this task. So let's create a different widget. So I'll tell you what I'll plan on doing. Let's first create a custom date picker dot. Okay, and here also I'll just keep it stateless widget only and just name it a custom date picker. Okay, now of course I want this structure and this structure to be similar so that it looks good. So let's copy this structure. All I want is this thing and we will delete the text field below. Let's speed up the process a bit. We definitely want the label also, so let's copy the label too. We don't need this hint text at all. So now this hint text. Okay, let's keep the hint text. No, we don't need the hint text. We are already going to delete this. So what I want to do here is I want to make a button that looks like this, but it's not this. It's not a text field. We can kill that. So what I want to do here is I want to create something that looks like this, but it's a button actually. And on clicking it, I can open a calendar widget and pick our date. So whenever you want to design something now, the best thing is use a container. Container is very powerful and it gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of design. So I'll show you how. I can just create this text field by using a container too. Let's give it a height of 50. We'll have to change that because container text field a little bit different, but for now let's first give the decoration because that's what we are interested in. We can also give it a width. The width would be full width of the device. You can select that using media query. And then decoration, we'll give it a box decoration, and we are interested in giving it a color here first. Color will be our colors dot white dot width opacity, the same as that. And border radius also we need to give it a 10, the same as this. And what else is remaining? Border radius, color, label is done. I think we need a child also, and the child should be a text. It will show, and text would show something like, let's say 12 2012, right? First let's see how does it look. So we have created this widget here. We can just import it in our sign up page here. Custom date picker, you can see we get the option here. You can see you can select here date of birth. So you can, after we do it, yeah, this is like this because there's no padding. So first let's give this container a padding, wrap with padding, yeah, and we will give this a 20. Yeah, this padding will provide it here also. So you can see it looks exactly like this, just the border is not missing. So we'll provide a border here. That's what was missing. And provide a border here with a little different method, border dot all colors dot black. You can see this is how border dot all mean we are trying to give the border to all side. If I did not want that, there was a different method. Okay, so this border is a little different. Okay, so let's give it opacity too. With opacity 0.5, it would look okay. Why is it looking a little different? I think this is a greenish kind of border. Colors dot green teal. Yeah, now it's the same. So you can see this text is only a bit different. So let's align it. First let's put it to center. It will come here. Maybe align work better because we only want it to align there only. Alignment dot center left. So you can see it's here. Let's give it a padding of 5 so that it looks aligned with respect to other widgets also. See, the color is fine. Now our design is completed. We want, whenever I click this, we open a date picker, and that date picker would let us select the date which we want to display here. So by default it is a dummy date here, but we don't want the dummy date. We want this date to change. So whenever we want to change something, what we do, we put it inside a variable and change that variable, right? So let's create a date. String date is equal to this, and we will use this date here. Okay. Okay. Of course, it would cause the issues. So now it's working like the same, right? Now, what I want to do is when I want to click it, I want some actions to happen. And by default, there is no property of on click on the container. but we can provide that. There is a widget for that. So whenever you wrap a container wrapped with widget and we wrap with a widget for inkwell or just a detector, it makes the container clickable. I'll show you how. After wrapping it with the inkwell, if you type on tap, you'll get this function here. It will be same as your generic on tap function. And if you type here print, for testing purposes only, if you type here something like this, if you see this, and whenever I type this, see, this is working, right? So that's what the power of on tap is. So now we want to show a dialog, and whenever you want to show a dialog or something, right, there is a proper function in Flutter. Basically here is this show dialog, show date picker, I guess, show date picker. Yeah, there's also different thing. You can show a pop-up using show dialog, you can show a bottom sheet using model sheet. There's many different options, but we are concerned with picking date, so we're selecting date picker. So date picker needs a first date, so we'll give it a first date of, it will obviously take a range. We want our users to be from 1995 to date time 2030. Okay, so this ensures that our users which we get selected are from these dates. So once you do this, you can see our date pickers appear, and this date picker also has a property called on selected. So let's use that on selected property to set our date. On selected, on date change. Yeah, on date change. No, not this one. There must be a property to set the date after being selected, right? Sorry, this date, there is no on change function here because yeah, this date picker is of type future. So by default, this is a function which will return a value. So we want to store that value here. So what I want you to know is whenever there is a type of future, you do await. So let's first use this for current date or selected date is equal to this, but this is a type future. So basically you need to await futures. Basically this future means that this date time is not currently available, but it will be available when user selects it. So we cannot assign it until the user has selected it and the value has been returned. So we need to do await here. And when you want to await, you will use async here. So I will teach about async and awaits and using this function, reactive programming later in the 21 day session. But for now, this is fine. And if you see, whenever we select a date, we can see that this date will be selected. So let's select a date and see if this is working or not. You see, our date is selected, but since this extra time is also added here, we don't want that. We just want this date. So what will we do? We will just take a substring till this. So how many digits are there? 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we'll just take a substring and assign it to the date. So now our date will be equal to selected date dot toString, but we want a substring of this toString. So we'll do a substring and it will start from 0 and end till 10. This is the method to do substring. So now what do you think will happen if I do this and this select a date? Will this date change? Will this date change? Because this is the date we are using here and this is the date we are setting. Will this change? Let's see. No, it won't change. Why? Because Flutter doesn't know that your value has changed or it has to update the UI or repaint the UI. We need to tell Flutter that, and we cannot do that in a stateless widget. If you attended the introductory session, I discussed about this. So you need to make this widget a stateful widget. And when you make this widget a stateful widget, there you get access to a function, very important function called setState. And when you use a setState, whatever you put inside this, it will trigger function to telling that this the UI has changed and now you can update the UI or repaint the UI. So now if I select this date now, you see it's still not updating. Why it's not updating? Okay. Oh, okay. I made a mistake. I made this function inside the build function. The build function basically draws every time whenever this UI is painted. We needed to put this outside this and make it a member variable of this state class, this class. So that was what was going wrong, because whenever we updated this date, the build function would trigger itself again and paint this same date again and again. That's why it was not being updated. So yeah, never put in the variables inside here. Always put your variable in this class itself. So now when we change this, you see new date is updated now. So I think our date bit is done. One more thing is left, and that is I guess creating this yeah, drop down. So just like we created a date picker, let's create a custom drop down as well. Custom drop down, not that. We just want this text field itself here, because all the things will be same except this part. We'll redesign it anyway, but let's keep the structure, original structure similar. Let's paste it here. Let's change the name here. Custom drop down. Now this is a custom drop down. We don't want the hint text. We want the label. We don't need the text field here. We are wanting a drop down, but we also want the container to look like this only. Just we want to show a drop down when it's being clicked on, so we'll use this container itself, which we created here. So let's bring this container. You see how well it easy it becomes when you start coding, and everything is just copy paste once you understand what you are trying to copy and paste. See, this says stated not available because we are using a stateless widget. So we don't we need it actually. Let's convert it into a stateful widget. Yeah, so it's fine. Now we don't want to open a date picker, so let's remove this inkwell and let's move on to the drop down part. Okay, let's see if it's showing this or not. So now drop down. Now let's call this in the sign up page. It's called custom drop down here. Now let's name it as gender. Sorry, my caps lock was on. Let's name it gender. Okay, you see it's looking almost similar to that. Maybe the size it is a bit different. No, it's fine, I guess. So we want to show a drop down here. How do we do that? So like everything, Flutter has a class for that. Let's explore that class. Okay, in this text we don't want a text here, but we want a drop down here. You see, whenever as soon as you type drop down, there was this drop down button. We want a button that triggers a drop down, and by default this drop down button takes items. These parameters which come here now, these parameters are the parameters that are definitely required. That means if I don't provide these parameters won't work. So what is this? Items must be the items in which the user can select. You can see this here also, the list of items the user can select, or we can interact with it. On change is something, whenever user selects something, this is the function we need to call. Okay, so first let's create a default value of drop down. Final selected value, we need to know what value is being selected, and we can call it select also, because at the start nothing will be selected. Let's create a list of type string, because the user will need to loop over this and show the drop down menu. We need to loop over this and show the drop down menu to the user. So list of string, you can give it items only, nothing too fancy about it. We can put here 3 words, first select, then male, then female, sorry, then yeah, others will be fine. Now we need to provide this item here, but this is a type of drop down menu item. It's not a list of type of string. So we need to create a list of drop down item. So you can do it in two ways. We need to provide a list that is of type drop down menu item. So what you should do, you can just loop over this and use a for loop and fill the array of drop down menu items one by one. Or if you are familiar with JavaScript, in JavaScript we don't use loops, just put everything in one line. We can do that here also. You can do items dot map. It will give this e variable. This e variable will be nothing but a text. Like if it's a list of string, this e will be these will be e's value in a whole iteration. Like first it will be select male, female, others. So we get e. What we create with e? We create a drop down menu item from this e. So this menu item, of course you can understand that, right? But when the drop down is being displayed, it cannot display it, it cannot take a text as its uh, value of the drop downs. It needs something more to know that what is the drop down. That's why there is a class called dropdown menu item that displays that this dropdown menu is composed of these dropdown menu items. So first remove this const somewhere. Okay, I understand why this error is coming. First, let me show you how we can create a dropdown menu item. So this child is a widget. So we'll just say return a text for users to see. This text will have a type e is string, so we can assign string here. But this drop down menu item also has a value here. This value is the value which you receive in this function's on tap. Whenever this on tap function is triggered, you receive this value and this value is selected. So keep in mind that this value you also have to provide, otherwise you won't know user is selecting what. You will never know. So that's why you need to provide this value, and we want this value to be e as well because we need this value. I'll show you why. For now, why is it not being assigned? Because this item is of type list, and what we are doing here, we are just using a map and we are looping here. We are not returning a list here, so we need to return a list here. So if we write .toList, we can convert this thing to a list, and you can see this is working. So let me explain you the syntax once more. We first looped over items, and okay, we first looped over item, then we created a in each iteration we created a drop down menu item, then we returned it, and then we returned it in form of a list. If you didn't want to do that, or if it is too complex for you, I will tell you an easier way. Let's create here list of type drop down menu item and say here menu items, initialize it and empty, and run a for loop. For you cannot run a for loop here, so you need to do it in a function. So you need to do it in a init state. Okay, and you can just run a for loop. You must understand that why we can't run a for loop here, right? It's very explanatory because this is a class. In the definition of a class, there can be no function. There can only be functions. They can only be member methods and member variables. Nothing else can be there. Nothing else could be there. That's why no operations can be formed there. That's why we need here. You can just do this var I in items, and just you can create menu items dot add, this kind of syntax. Okay, you are for each items in this items you are creating a menu item array, and then you can pass this array here. Then also this will work. Okay, but why do this when we can have a simpler syntax, right? And it's also pretty much prevalent in other programming language like JavaScript and TypeScript. So knowing it does not harm you in any way. Okay, so here it is simple. Now just provide this value on changed. This on change will also have a value which will it return, and just print this value. Print value. I think now it's here. Okay. So all thing is done. We need to provide in an initial value because of course when you want this drop down to show, it would show selected here, right? So we need to provide it an initial value. initial value, I guess, or value, yeah, selected value. Otherwise, how will it know that which value you are selecting, and it has to display that, right? And one thing to note, always remember that this selected value should always be something that is in this array. If you provide something now that is not in this array, it will show this error. Like for example, I change this, you can see this error, right? So never do that. Always make sure that this value which we are providing here, it should be present in this array. So now you can see that there is some error. This arrow is shown here. We don't want that. So there is a property in drop down button called, there will always be properties to change. You just need to explore. Is expanded here. It means it's not expanded. Let's expand it. Is expanded true. You can see now we are having this button, and there's this underline. I don't like this underline, so there's a method to hide it. It's a pretty weird method, but yeah, okay, Flutter, we get you. Let's wrap it with a widget called drop down button hide underline. Yeah, this is a very, you will not see this method I used like this in anywhere, but yeah, this is how you can hide this underline. So it will go away, and you can just select this. You can see we selected female, and it's being it's appearing here also. Okay, why did not appear here? So I guess it's not working. Oh, some error. Yeah. So I guess it's not working because obviously we are not assigning this selected value when we change it, right? Whenever we change this, we are setting it to male, but its value is set to select only, right? So how will it say display male? So we need to do this again, set state, and in this set state we need to set as selected value as this value. Okay. So now when we select a value, it's being displayed here. Okay, cool. Our design of custom drop down is also working. And once you go back to your sign up page, you can just add a button here, elevated button, just an empty on pressed, remove this const, just put the child here as text and say it, submit. Okay, so now you are getting the submit button. We can also give it the same padding which we gave earlier of 20, and it would look okay. Now one thing you might be wondering is that in this text field, how will we are getting this selected value here, right? How will we get this value here? Because our sign up page is here. How will we get this value here? For example, you wanted to know what are the final value when you click on submit. Okay, so how will you get it here? Because your on change function is here, no? So this is also your homework to do for all 5 of this. I will show you one method, one way for one of this widget. For name I'll show you, and you have to do it or for all 5 of this yourself. So we need to pass this onChain function here, so that not here, we can need to pass this onChain function here, so that we can get this onChain function here, so we can set the value here. For example, if we had this thing like, let's convert it to stateful widget. For example, if we had this variable called var name is equal to, we can keep it string also, but var is something that gets assigned at the time of compilation. If you are familiar with JavaScript, you can know. So var name is equal to this, and we want to set this name whenever user types a name. So for now there is no way of doing this, right? From here you can do it. If you want to show the value of name being selected, print name, you won't see anything, right? There is no name being selected. This will empty string will come, and you cannot select it from here also. It is being selected in this page, custom text field. So we need to pass this onChain function here, so you can access this onChain function from here. So you can do that by doing this. Since we just like we used a variable for doing this, we can make a function also, and we can pass these functions around. This is called a callback function. So let's copy this function description here Of course they should match. That's only how you can assign them to each other. So let's keep it here. Let's keep it final. Yeah, we created a new variable. This is a function which will be received from the parent itself, and we'll pass it to the child, and whenever the value of child changes, it will trigger the parent and say, hey, my value is changed, now run this function. You can see this little exclamation mark, and you might be worrying, what is this, why I'm using this? So by default now, there is a question mark here. For example, what if I don't want this on change function here? What if I you know somehow, if I don't want to provide this, what should I do then, right? Uh, if I write this as this, then that means this onChain function cannot be null value. I cannot pass null value here. But if I write make it a nullable, like this function can be null, I can pass nothing to this function and the code will run. So that's what it means. But obviously we cannot use something which can be null, right? If we try to access a function which was null, it will give us error. So we tell the function that, hey, even if I have set this value to be null, I will not be sending null here. So that's why I have used this. But here we definitely want these functions. We want to use these functions. So we don't want to use null. I'm just teaching you how. So if I'm not making this null, I need to set it as required. Now I don't need this exclamation mark, right? But that means we have to provide this function everywhere we have used this custom text field. In the earlier case, if I had make it null, I did not have to write the value of function everywhere. So yeah, keep in mind, it's very useful. But hey, we only have 3, so we can definitely use them. So let's paste this in these 3 also. So now here you can just do this set state name is equal to p0. Yeah, save this also. So now when I type my name here, Raman Kumar Singh, sorry for my bad typing skills. When I write this name here, you can see I can access this name here in the print function. So yeah, that was it for today's challenge. Just make that. I hope you understood the challenge. Any issues you have, you can just post it in the discussion sections, and our team will definitely answer those for you. So yeah, I hope you understood this. Yeah, thank you. Bye.